Hey love, I'm Gina, a fitness, nutrition, and self-love coach, helping high-achieving women heal their relationship with food and their bodies so they can finally feel free, strong, and confident in their own skin. If you've ever felt stuck in the cycle of restriction, binging, and body shame, trust me, you are not alone. On this podcast, we're calling out diet culture BS, building your dream body without the obsession, and getting real about what it actually means to love yourself in a world that constantly tells you not to. I've been there. Anorexia, binge eating, body hate, you name it, I've lived it. And now I help women just like you find food freedom, feel sexy in their skin, and take their damn power back. So get ready, because the Fit Without Obsession podcast starts now. There was a time that I could tell you how many grams of protein were in a single egg white, but I literally couldn't remember the last meal that I had ate without guilt. And I want to start off this episode by saying this is not an anti-tracking episode. I'm not like anti-MyFitnessPal in general. I actually don't think that tracking is inherently bad. I feel like for me, it helped me a lot in different areas of my healing journey and in my recovery. And it helped me understand just the actual meal compositions that I was eating and made sure that I was eating enough. And then also it helped me get some structure after some binging episodes. So I do want to say, like, tracking is not the worst thing in the world. If you track right now, if you feel like it's helping you, that's actually a really positive thing. But today, this episode, I really want to talk about the line that when you cross it, tracking is no longer empowering. It actually ends up controlling you. And I feel like it's important for us to discuss what tracking did for me, what it took away from me, and also how I found a life after MyFitnessPal now, how I actually get to eat intuitively, because that should be your end goal. Even if you are currently tracking, even if it's helping you a ton, and I will say I utilize tracking with my clients, even if it is a positive thing for you at this moment, it should not be a long-term strategy. Really, our long-term strategy should be eating intuitively and actually not needing to look at numbers to be able to build a plate, to be able to fuel ourselves properly. So I want to first talk about how tracking actually helped me at first. And really, I just want you to understand that what you're doing right now, if you're currently tracking, doesn't have to be a bad thing. When I first started utilizing MyFitnessPal, it actually felt fun and empowering at first. I felt like I had control. I felt like, wow, I'm learning so much. I am understanding so much more about my diet. I actually have these boxes to check off. If you're anything like me and you're type A, like, you love a good to-do list, right? You love checking off the things, making sure you hit all the things. So I finally felt like when I found it, like, I had this perfect formula and I'd actually cracked the code on how to eat right. Because for a long time when I was growing up and social media became big and diet culture was kind of like all the rage, right? And we were getting exposed to a lot of new ideas, I still didn't really understand like how I should actually be eating. So when I kind of learned a little bit more about macros and like tracking, I was like, okay, like, this makes sense to me. I can actually follow this. Like, this is a good game plan for me to root myself in. And what I will say is I've gone through different periods with tracking, right? So like there was a time period where it was very destructive. It did actually kind of trigger my anorexia, but also like on the flip side, when I was in my healing journey post binge, I was trying to, get back to a body that felt really good for me. It actually showed me that even though I thought I was recovering, even though like I was in a much better place, right? And I had actually gained a ton of weight. I was actually kind of overweight even at this point. I understood that when I started tracking again, I was under eating. And really, tracking almost gave me the permission to eat more and encouraged me to eat more. And it also helped me understand why I was so tired and why I wasn't really building muscle. It actually gave me physical data. So that at the time felt very powerful. And like I said before, for my clients, I feel like it can be used as such an educational tool. Not everyone necessarily has a lot of nutritional background. And even if you do, even if you feel like you've been obsessive over nutrition and that's all you think about all day, you don't necessarily always have the most healthful view of nutrition, right? So really, tracking actually really benefits my clients. And again, I always tell them that it's a short-term strategy. It's not something to do long-term, but it helps my clients that are scared of eating carbs specifically, because I can go on and on and on. You've heard me ramble on about how important carbs are. And I feel like that's the scariest macro usually for us to reintroduce if we've been restricting in some sort of capacity. And also it really helps women that I'm working with that have no idea what enough looks like. So I see this originate a lot when I have some clients come in and they feel uncomfortable in their skin. They feel like they want to lose weight, and maybe they have actually gained a little bit of weight, but they actually, through tracking, through us looking at their nutrition, we understand that they are eating way below what their body actually needs, even sometimes below their BMR, which if you don't know what your BMR is, it's literally the amount of calories you need at rest, which that doesn't even include getting up to go to the bathroom. That doesn't include digestion. It doesn't include any of your extra physical movement. And you actually need a ton more calories than you probably think. So I do think that tracking can help you really gain perspective. And that's why, again, I want to show that there can be a positive side to it, right? But for me, when I did start tracking and I first, before went into, years of anorexia, years of binging, and years of just like the shame spiral, I got stuck along the way, and I stopped being the one in control when I was tracking, and the numbers started to call the shots. One thing that came up for me, and this is actually even after my healing journey had started, right? Like I felt like I was at a more stable weight. I was over my anorexia, but I will say, like, I felt like for a long time for me, I was kind of stuck in this quasi recovery. And what made me feel like, okay, I don't want to live like this anymore, I can't let these numbers control me anymore, is I was actually dating my now husband long distance, and he happened to live with his family. And every time I went over there and visited, we ate what his mom cooked. And so amazing and sweet of her to be cooking, right? But like for me, as someone that tracked everything, that made all of my own food, that was so meticulous with the numbers, like I didn't have a barcode. I didn't have nutrition levels. I had no idea like how many grams of things were in the things that she was making, right? And that was so hard and scary, especially coming from someone that, like, yes, maybe I was encouraging myself to eat more in some capacity. I still had my food fears in the back of my mind. Like I was still terrified of cooking stuff in butter. I was still terrified of cooking stuff in oil. And so not knowing what was in things really was just so triggering for me. It was like mental gymnastics. And I would try to guess the macros. I would feel panic at dinner, and then I would literally starve myself all day just so I could log dinner without going over. I remember sitting at breakfast with like black coffee and thinking about how I needed to save calories for the end of the night. And what that led to is me actually severely under eating, because I know myself, and I've shared this before, that like even when I was trying to calculate calories, I would kind of like go on the over end, right? Like just to play it safe. Like if I thought something might be 250 calories, I would log it for 300 calories. And that adds up after a long time, right? And I really got to this realization. I remember I was sitting at the table with this whole family, and I wasn't even listening to the conversation. I was actually just calculating calories in my head, smiling on the outside, but I was like low-key just internally spiraling. And that's when I realized, like, I'm not living. I'm literally just obsessed with logging food, and I don't actually know what it's like to live my life anymore. And it's the man that I am married to now. And like, thank goodness I worked through this, and thank goodness like he also understood and helped me through this, because I could have lost an amazing future, the future that I have now, because I was so focused at the time more on macros and like actually creating balanced memories. So I want to start talking about, for you, this is probably what you're kind of maybe dealing with right now. Like if you've been stuck with tracking for a long time, if you feel like there's not a way to get rid of it, if you feel like you have to run your whole life with MyFitnessPal and or any other tracking device, honestly, like it's all kind of the same. I want to talk about how I started to slowly let go of tracking without actually losing my mind. And I want you to know that this was not an overnight thing. And you don't have to put that pressure on yourself to feel like it has to be this overnight thing where you like fully just like delete the app and it's all gone for good. Like, I'm not going to lie, if you do that, that's actually probably going to be worse for you and probably going to spiral you enough to like need to go back to it. And I say need, like you're going to literally feel like you need it, right? But the one thing that I would start with for you and what worked for me is I started to take intentional breaks. So I started with like just one untracked meal a week. And, you know, it felt scary at first, but I also reminded myself my body doesn't need to reset based on one meal. My worth doesn't fluctuate with my food log. So instead of just like going cold turkey with like tracking, I just started small. Like I said, like I would eat and track the rest of the day, and I would challenge myself to even eat something without tracking it. And I would even start, if you're super scared, start with something that you're already normally eating. So you're not actually putting the numbers in, but like you have that safety net of like, okay, like I've had this before. This isn't going to be a crazy meal. It's going to like throw me insanely over. And I do want you to challenge yourself at some point. But again, it's starting with those baby steps. And the second thing that I did when I was starting to let go of tracking is I practiced noticing fullness and satisfaction. So I think two of you have been tracking for a long time. you really rely on the app to tell you when you're done, right? Like to tell you when the kitchen's closed or when you can't have any more snacks. And you get really out of tune with what you actually want and when you're actually full. So I realized when I stopped tracking little by little, I realized I was still hungry after meals, and I hadn't honored that really in years. And it can be uncomfortable to be full, especially if you haven't felt that feeling in a while. But I want you to remind yourself that like that's actually how your body is supposed to be. Like you're supposed to, when you eat, fill up and feel nourished and not be already automatically thinking about your next meal or the numbers in your next meal. If you're feeling like that, that's telling you you're not actually satisfying yourself in that meal. And that could be a lot of things. That could be that you maybe even ate enough, like on paper, but if you don't eat something that like satisfies you emotionally and physically and mentally, you're not going to feel satisfied. You're going to already be looking for the next quick fix with food. And the next thing that I really did when I was letting go of tracking is I let food lose its labels. And this goes back to the good or bad food. You cannot feel good leaving tracking if you are still associating foods as like bad foods. Because then as soon as you eat a cookie, even if it's only 100 calories and actually maybe that even fit in your macros, you're going to automatically be like, oh my God, I must have gone so much over. I'm so fat. I'm so disgusting. I ate a bad food. Like I need to get back to those numbers to make sure that I can stay on track. So for me, peanut butter used to be a huge red flag, but when I was starting to let go of tracking, I made sure it was just peanut butter. Like it literally was just that. Something I loved, something I enjoyed. And it was okay if I went a little bit over. And when I was letting go of tracking, I also started to focus on consistency over perfection. And this is a big one, but it's kind of analyzing your actual habits instead of analyzing the numbers within the food. So this could look like, did I eat regularly today? Did I get protein in each meal? Did I move my body from a place of love and not guilt? So, still checking in, which tracking can be something like that, right? Like it can be a form of accountability, but I found other ways to hold myself accountable to my healthy habits that didn't have to do and rely just on the numbers. And one thing that I want you to start thinking about, and you can even journal about this right now, take a little pause, is think about what am I actually afraid will happen if I stop tracking? And how can I build safety in other ways? Because that's why you're still stuck in this tracking mindset, this tracking mode, because I know it doesn't feel fun for you right now. If you've been doing it for a long time, if it's feeling obsessive, it's not feeling like it's uplifting your life. It's feeling like it's getting in the way and severely taking away things. And that's coming from a place of fear. You're afraid that something's going to happen. And the answer might be, I'm afraid I'm going to gain weight. It also might be, I'm afraid that if I stop tracking, I'm literally going to eat all of the food in my pantry and not be able to stop. And those are very valid fears. And once you actually come to terms with those fears, you can stop blaming the tracking and you can stop being afraid to give up tracking and actually start investigating those thoughts. Like, why are you so afraid to gain weight? Why are you so afraid that you can't keep yourself out of the pantry? Because there's other ways that we can work around these thoughts besides just having you rely on numbers to like stay on track. And I want you to understand that life can look so much more beautiful than it looks right now. I want to paint a picture of like what my life looks like now that I don't have MyFitnessPal like running the shots, because it is the most magical fucking place I have ever been. And I feel so free around food. I feel so not even just like free around food, but free with myself. It actually helps me feel freedom in all aspects of my life. Even though, yes, I was hyper-focused on food before, I didn't recognize that that hyper-focus was taking away from so many other areas that had nothing to do with food. So for me, I no longer panic when plans change, because I think for a long time when I was stuck in a tracking mindset, like if I thought I was going to go to dinner at this one place, I would map my whole entire week around that one dinner. And then if my friend maybe wanted to go somewhere else or we stayed out later or whatever it was, like I would literally fully just implode. So like now I can just be flexible with life. I don't have to worry about being spontaneous. I can do it with joy now because I don't have my life run by MyFitnessPal anymore. And I no longer turn down dinner invites. I literally shared this recently online that I actually said no to going to my best friend's birthday dinner one time because I was afraid of what was going to be there. I was afraid that it wasn't going to fit into my macros because there was pasta and wine and all the things that I was so scared of, right? So when I finally stopped tracking, I can actually go out and celebrate my friends. I can do things that are fun. I can do things that I never let myself do before. And I also don't cry over an unexpected cookie. I don't cry over an unexpected snack, or even sometimes like I'll overeat some, and I can openly admit that, like where maybe I've ate to the point past fullness, but that doesn't trigger me in the sense of like, oh my gosh, I failed. That's more of just like, okay, why did I do this? Maybe I was mindlessly eating. Maybe I was just immersed in the moment. Maybe I was drunk and I wanted some extra food, like whatever it was. Like I can now look at that without judgment and just kind of analyze it, and then continue my life forward from there and not let it have any impact moving forward. And now, like, I really eat without checking my phone. I can actually focus on people in the room, not numbers on a screen. And I also can trust myself to nourish my body even on off days. And I still think about food, but it's not from a form of like, what should I have? What is going to fit into MyFitnessPal? Now, when I actually think about food, I also think, what sounds good? What do I actually want to eat right now? Or what would actually energize me today? I no longer think, how do I stay under like 1,500 calories? And deleting MyFitnessPal didn't make me out of control. It really made me conscious again. And again, I want to really share that I didn't do this overnight, and I would not encourage you to do this overnight, right? I took those small baby steps with tracking where I wouldn't track one meal. Then it turned into maybe not tracking a whole day. And then maybe I only tracked a couple days a week. You can let it go slowly. It doesn't have to be this thing where you just fully are rid of it. And if you're scared to let go, you're not alone. I want you to understand that tracking doesn't define your success. And I want you to know that there is actually a way forward where you don't have to feel like you're living your whole life off of MyFitnessPal. And I discussed this before, like the fear that you're probably feeling. Like I know that you're probably scared to gain weight or lose control, or also scared that you might not know what to eat. Because if you've been tracking for a long time and you've been following macros or a meal plan, sometimes like even just creating a meal can seem like the hardest, most complex thing because you've disassociated just like your internal cues and also like things that you learned growing up about how to build a balanced plate. You've gotten so wrapped up in this that I know that you might be scared to not even know how to eat without tracking. And that fear isn't a sign that you're not ready. It's actually a sign that the next chapter matters. Like it matters that you need to do this. You need to overcome this. And there are 3 ways for you that you can really transition from tracking every single bite that you put into your mouth to intuitive eating. You might not be ready, like I said, to fully give things up, but one thing that you could do is maybe just track protein and fiber. I know that those are obviously really great things that you should have, and I'm not saying like we should only eat protein, only eat fiber. We should obviously have carbs and fat, but like sometimes that could just be easier to still track and make sure that you're hitting your goals, right? But you're not tracking every single little thing to where if you go over a gram, you're going to spiral. You could also, if you're ready to delete the app, but you don't really know what to do next, like you could start journaling about the meals that you're eating and how they felt. So actually checking in, that's going to really help you get more attuned with your hunger cues, and it's going to help you understand if certain foods are making you emotional and like why they're making you emotional, right? We need to actually sit and ponder this to be able to overcome it. And another way you can transition, kind of like I said, and what I did is you could do like maybe 2 days on with tracking and then 1 day off for a week and then like build up from there. And I know that right now, if you feel really trapped, if it feels like this sounds like something you want to do, but you don't really know where to start, like if you want to stop tracking and you don't know what to do, that's what I actually help you rebuild inside Feel Without Obsession. That's the whole point of my one-on-one coaching program is I help you learn, yes, we can track with MyFitnessPal, we can track numbers. I do it with clients all the time. But again, it's not a long-term fix. And I actually help you transition out of that so that you can feel free. You can feel sexy. You can feel confident in your skin without having to actually look at those numbers anymore. And I want you to understand that tracking isn't evil. Again, it can be a useful tool, but it's not your forever plan. That is the key that I want to get across here. And if I hadn't given up tracking, even though it did serve great purposes during some areas of my life, I wouldn't be in this free spot that I feel now, in this great relationship with food that I feel now. If trapping helped you build structure, like that's great. It's not a bad thing. But eventually you have to ask yourself, is it helping me live? Is it helping me be the person that I want to be? Is it helping me turn into the dream version of myself? And if this really gave you some clarity, like please leave a review. I would love to know if this has helped you on your journey. And also I would love to support you. So remember, don't be a stranger. You can message me at @thefitbean_ and just tell me where you're stuck at with tracking. I would love to help you work through just the feeling and the fear of like letting go, because I want you to know you're not going to gain a ton of weight. You're not going to lose control. And even if you do have moments where maybe you do gain a little bit of weight or you do have a spiral, like that's not your forever. I want you to understand that too. Sometimes we get so caught up in thinking that we have to do this perfectly because again, if you've been structured and you've been trying to follow this food plan, like sometimes we think we have to heal in a perfect way and we put this pressure on ourselves to like follow all the steps perfectly. No, it's okay to be messy. It's okay to fail. It's okay. It's okay to maybe one night eat everything in your pantry. I want you to also give yourself that forgiveness and understand that there's nothing wrong with you. You're actually doing all of the right things. Because until we go through this messy middle, you're never going to get to that amazing life that you want to get onto at the other side. Thank you so much for tuning into the Fit Without Obsession podcast. If this episode helped you heal, grow, or just feel a little less alone, go ahead and hit the follow button so that you never miss a moment of this journey. And if you loved it, share it on your stories and tag me at @thefitbean_. I seriously love seeing what resonates. Sharing this podcast helps more women step out of a session and into their power. And that ripple effect starts with you. And if you're ready for deeper support, check the show notes for ways that we can work together. Just remember, eat the pasta, wear the shorts, and love the hell out of your life. You deserve it always. Talk soon.